Hey, good morning, early morning, everybody. So, as I said, I would come back and do the second video, and it's really something that I'm passionate about. About 2 months ago, when I was online, let me get that off my. I was online, and I had ran across an article, and you'll see it in my feed back in May. It was a headliner. It said, all these missing children in like a 2-week period in Ohio. It was, I think, 14 days, about 30. I think it was 27 missing children, but they kind of rounded up to 30. So when it happened, I was just thinking about like, wow, this seems like a lot of kids. But I didn't do anything. I just shared it because I think part of prevention is just sharing knowledge, sharing like those resources and tools. So recently I started thinking about this a little bit more after two things. When everything happened with Carlee Russell, it really got me to thinking, I think it's more common now for, I want to say, younger people to fake these hoaxes, the abduction or calling in to 911. From what I've been kind of watching in the news, a lot of attorneys have come forward and said that this is kind of common, like it happens all the time. And when everything happened with Carlee Russell, they were not surprised. Just off the jump, her story didn't make sense. Just even being able to see along the side of the highway that late in the evening, it was just so much darkness. It didn't make sense. The time frame of her being gone for the 2 days and still being in the state of Alabama, it didn't make sense to me because that is a major highway. You can just leave the state. You haven't left the state. You honestly haven't even left your neighborhood. So you've been kidnapped, abducted, you're missing, and you're within walking distance of your home. And you say you've gone into, when she returned, a semi, a car, a house, all within presumably a close distance to where you live, and not far, from the place where she said she was abducted. So a lot of things that make sense. When the police start investigating, they do a thorough job. It's not just enough to get you back, but they want the details because this helps law enforcement. This helps law enforcement with training. This helps law enforcement learn any new ways that people are committing crime. If there is a new way of maybe setting someone up or strategizing as a team, 2-3 people involved, they want to know those things because that helps them. It helps them to prepare, to plan. That could be something like a link to another case where another child has gone missing. That could also help with some of their training of officers, so everybody's aware of what the new tactics are for criminals. So that's why the police want to know. It's important, those details of getting them to the police in a timely manner, because a lot of times when people commit different crimes, it's not their first time. They might have gotten caught now, but usually historically you can look back on history, especially when you have I can't say those words, but when you have a violation like that, you usually can go back. Some murder, some other violent crimes, you can usually sit in their past history of arrests. So that's just something that you have to think about when you're dealing with law enforcement, and why they need that information is very useful to them. So that was partly why I've kind of gone back and looked at the Ohio missing persons. The other part is When Gretchen Harrington, when her killer was arrested, now she was from the state of Pennsylvania, and she was just 8 years old when she was abducted. A pastor that was known to her and her family, her father was a pastor of a church, and the man that abducted, killed, and I can't say the other word, but he also did that. He was someone that she knew, and it was later found out from continuing almost 50 years of investigating her case as a cold case. They were able to put enough details together to go back to the person, the man that they thought did the initial abduction, but they didn't have enough evidence. And the reason that law enforcement kind of put their target on him is because he knew details that only the killer possibly would know. He knew what she was wearing, but he claimed he did not see her. So when they first interviewed him in 1975, he was the person that filed the police report. It was not her father or her mother. He filed the police report, which I found to be extremely strange, and he was able to give an account of what she was wearing. And that would have been a red flag, and I'm sure it was a red flag for law enforcement. Maybe not so much for the family if they were grieving, but for law enforcement, absolutely. How do you know what the person is wearing if you didn't see them? So they gathered as much evidence as they could, and they end up finding out about a diary that another younger, she was a 10-year-old then, and she had wrote some things about violations that happened when she was younger. And they were able to take that information and confront the pastor after almost, it was like 48 years, 48 years, and he did confess. I believe that if they still maintain that DNA evidence, that should match him. But he did make a confession. So her family is getting some closure, some answers, some details about her last moments. Most SA violators are not going to disclose that part of what they did. They will tell you everything kind of up into that. I saw her. I picked her up. I asked her to do this. Just like in Gretchen's case, Gretchen Harrington's case, he admitted that he asked her to undress and she didn't want to. And he admitted that he struck her, but he skipped over the violation. He didn't even acknowledge that. But because they had the DNA evidence, and hopefully that will be able to be used as so many years later, but you usually need just a small amount. So hopefully that happens, and they'll be able to get a conviction for him. He's 82 years old now, so he's lived, the majority of his life, and, he's being held accountable now. So it's not justice denied, it's just justice delayed. And sometimes that happens, in a lot of cases, you don't get that result. So we have to be glad and thankful and just keep the family in our thoughts and prayers, because as a parent, I can only imagine that devastation. So that's why we're here this morning thinking about all of these missing children that are in the state of Ohio. When the first article came out, that was back in May. And at the time, it was not my primary focus. It was not. Even though I shared it, I was interested. I was also looking at some missing female cases in Grand Rapids, Michigan. They had what they believed to be about 17 missing women over a period of about 30 years. I think it was from the 1990s. Anyway, I had a little interest in that, but it was going to be kind of challenging to pull a case like that together. You had different races, different ages. It seemed like they may have all have been I don't want to say homeless, but maybe in that profession to make money. But I don't know. I would have to look more into that. But I was kind of thinking about that. But I got on the missing persons case more because I feel like this is something that we can do something about right now. Like, we don't know if these kids are not going to return home or that they're deceased. And it seems like right now is a good time to get people involved, interested, listening, thinking, and maybe changing some of how things are set up. And the reason I'm bringing that part up is because I had not really looked into anything involving missing children. So when I started looking into it, I found it to be, maybe I just don't have an understanding, but I found it to be odd. So there's a database. I want to show you guys. So I listed 37 missing persons that were pulled to, well, now it's into the next day, but yesterday, so that would have been July 30th, covering a period of 10 days, and I found 37 missing person reports for children, not adults. These are just for children in a 10-day period. So I kind of wondered to myself, when I was pulling them, what was going on, because this is what I saw. One second. I have to pull it up. Well, I have it, but I have to go to it. So the state of Ohio, they have a website with the Attorney General. I'm gonna move my computer over just a little bit because I'm using different things. So when you pull it up, so I'll just try to like scroll, but I provided you with all of the missing person reports, so you don't have to do it. But if you notice, there's no pictures, right? So my first thought was, I know these are recent because they're in the last 10 days, but I feel that it would be very hard. Okay, I'm just using my chin for a minute. I just want you guys to see. I went back and counted them. Out of the 37 missing person reports, only 11 had pictures. So that was like 29%, almost 30%. And with anything, if you can see who you're looking for, that makes a big difference, right? We want to know what are the features and race and age and what do they look like, and what can we expect if we were to see them in person, not just given the information. So that was really bothering me, because with the technology the way it is today, social media, phones, people are always taking pictures of themselves, selfies when they're out, they're posting online, they're using all of these different social media sites. So I thought it was kind of odd that they did not have a lot of pictures, but I said, well, maybe because these are in the last 10 days. So they're really just getting the report out, and I guess they're going to follow it up with a picture. I don't know, because I don't know how it works. But what I was thinking, like, maybe I should try to find the pictures of these people, because it would be helpful when you're sharing a missing persons flyer. So I talked to my nephew and my daughter, and I'm thinking, wow, this is going to be a lot. And that's why I stopped at 10 days, because there's just so many missing person reports for children. And I felt like that would be a lot to try to find all of the pictures. And when I talked to my nephew, he said they're not on Facebook. They don't use that. So I guess for the younger generation, they're probably into other social media platforms, which is totally fine, no problem, right? So that was kind of an out. And then when I talked to my daughter, She said, you know, do you think it has something to do with them being connected in some way? So what we were thinking when we were looking through like just some of the pictures, we found that a large number of them were African American. Now, the Ohio state has a mixed communities. Some areas will have more African Americans than others. I would say probably Cleveland would have maybe a higher number. But I think my daughter's point is that maybe there's something connecting these missing people. I don't know, but what I do know is I don't think that this is a normal amount of kids going missing. I think the number is extremely high. And from looking at the range of the ages, these are not little kids. These are like 12, 15, 16, 17, nearly almost an adult. So I can't even imagine what the adult figures would look like for missing persons. But if we're just focusing on the children aspect, this is a pretty high number, right? So we want to know why. So I started thinking, maybe I need to look into this a little bit more, right? So I was thinking on a federal level, what would be the way that you would report a kidnapping, and is there a different database? And that database, what would that look like? So I've already put it in the post. So I'm going to go and just look at that and refer to that because it would make it a little bit easier. Excuse me. So the first thing I saw was that the FBI has like this child app for identification. So I said, okay, well, I'll share that. So if people are interested, they can kind of look at that themselves, right? But I was interested, and I'm going to go over what I'm passing up now. I want to show you what I was interested in. There's a part, here it is. All right. These pictures are from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Okay, so this is going to cover all states, including the state of Ohio. So I was thinking, well, let's see what they have in their database and let's compare it to what's happening in the state of Ohio. To me, they should be in sync, or they should be sharing information, right? Because if someone is missing, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be in their home state or the state where they were currently residing. So I thought, well, if I've already looked at Ohio, and the state of Ohio is showing me 37 missing person reports, then maybe this information is shared at a federal level so the word can be put out there and other states can be on the lookout for these missing children also, right? So I go to this website, and again, it's called National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. When I go, I pick the state of Ohio just to see what would come back. And I noticed immediately, I'm going to stop here. I noticed immediately that all of their posts had pictures. So I thought, oh, this is great. Like, this is making it easy now because the state of Ohio can just kind of go over here, capture the picture, and then put it on their page. So when they do these missing person reports and you can print those flyers, they'd have a picture. Well, unfortunately, there's some type of disconnect, or maybe there was never a connect, because on this database, literally there were only 4 people during this period, July 20th, 2023 to July 30th, 2023. And I thought, wow, how is that even, how can we reconcile that? Is the information not being shared? Are these two different? I know state and federal is separate, right? But why isn't the sharing of information? Is this the parents' responsibility to get it to this National Missing and Exploited Children Center? If these are all children, then why wouldn't the information be shared top down or bottom up? So that really was concerning to me. But I did appreciate that they had pictures and essentially a missing person flyer for those children. And let me say this also. What I did figure out, these 4 missing persons, they are not on the state of Ohio website. Their names, they're not on there. So I didn't understand why this database has such different information. Not so much the flyer, but the names. So is one group not communicating? So I thought, well, wow, that's unfortunate, and maybe that's something that they can look at and make some changes, right? Improvements. So I wanted you guys to know that. That was kind of mind-boggling to me. So I want to talk a little bit in general before I get to more about the state of Ohio. So before I can come on here and kind of talk, I just want to make sure that I'm being relevant, current, and giving out information that's present day worthy, that's accurate and up to date, right? So I didn't do like some major research. I just had like some small questions that I was just thinking about. So I have my thoughts, and then I have what the general experts say that finalize answers. And one of the things that I was thinking about, like, what are some of the reasons why children go missing, right? Because in order to kind of fix something or improve something, we got to know why. Why is this not working? Why is so many kids either leaving home on their own will or possibly being abducted and kidnapped? So I went right to online, and this is what's said. Most kids who are reported missing have run away, or there have been a misunderstanding with their parent about where they were supposed to be. Of the kids and teens who are truly abducted, most are taken by a family member or an acquaintance. 25% of kids are taken by strangers. So I just, I said, okay, I know some kids are choosing through whatever reasoning to leave. Maybe they feel they can do it on their own. Maybe they're thinking, hey, it's not that hard out there, or maybe they're going to be with a friend or someone they know. I believe that there is a segment of kids that they feel that there is enough room for them to go into the world, and they will have some support or assistance, whether it be from someone they know, a family member, a friend, maybe a love interest, I don't know. But I'm just thinking of all the kind of possibilities. So I said, okay, this kind of makes sense, the runaway theory that they're not being pressured out, or something's not necessarily too bad at home. They're choosing to leave. So they're calling them a runaway. And I guess that's pretty common because that's what's listed first. And then you have this segment where there is a misunderstanding with the parent about something and the child is leaving. Okay. I'm sure it happens. And then there's another segment where the child is actually abducted by a parent. So this makes me believe that someone else has the custody, the physical custody of the child, and the parent comes in and abducts them. And this could be through a divorce, or maybe never married, or, maybe a recent separation. I'm not sure, but at some point, one of the parents abducts the child. So I'm sure it happens. I mean, that's very believable. And then they're saying that 25% of kids are taken by strangers. So that's 1 out of 4. So if we look at that number, that 37 that I found in 10 days of the missing police reports, 37 with 25%, I would say that's a little bit over 4. So out of those, no, I'm sorry, not 4, 9. 9, a little bit over 9 of the 37 kids were abducted. So I'm thinking, wow, you really need to get on top of those pictures being in the missing person report, because that could lead to more people knowing who to look for. And with the Amber Alert and with the technology and online and the flyers and people sharing, we have to share information and be on the lookout, right? So that's a pretty high, that's a significant number in a 10-day period, right? That's like almost one child a day being abducted. So that was something that I wanted to share. Something else that I wanted to share, they listed the top 10 states where children were going missing. And the odd part about it all, Ohio wasn't in the list at all. California was listed as the #1 state for a child to go missing. So I found that to be kind of interesting. I'm going to see if I still have that up. Because that's just something like, okay, it gives you something to kind of think about. Like, wow, with this number being the way it is, it would make me think that the state of Ohio would be in that top 10, right? But it's not. Now, I don't know how old that data is, because I'm looking at it online, so it did not give me a date. But even still, with that number being, to me, extraordinary high, maybe they're going to be pushed up more to that top 10. So I don't know, but one thing I want to talk about, the state of Ohio, they have on their website some information, and I want to talk a little bit about that, because it's important that we put knowledge out there. So if something was to come up, it may not even affect you. It could be somebody you know, or maybe you decide that just sharing the information may help somebody else, right? So I want to give you this information, and then you can use it as needed. So on the Attorney General website for the state of Ohio, they have a category that's called reporting a missing person. And I just want to go over some of the things that they have on here, because it could save a life. So let's just go over a couple of these things. So this is what they recommend. Contact your local law enforcement agency first. To assist with the investigation, law enforcement may ask for the following information to include in the missing persons report. So this is kind of what I showed you. That was, didn't have just a lot of information. Let me show you one. So the very first couple of ones, this is what they look like in the state of Ohio. You don't have any information, right? So it has the name, the city, their age, their race, their height, weight, hair and eye color, and then the details are very slim on most of them. I looked at a lot of them because I found it to be a space that could possibly be useful if you have the information. Now, at times, I'm sure you're not going to have it. Maybe the child left and just didn't say anything, and you can just say their last known whereabouts, or maybe you knew they were going somewhere. You could say, well, they were headed to this. But I feel like the details, I think it's important for them to get more of these details. It's fine to say what they were wearing, but how likely is it that they're going to continue to wear the same clothing? So I don't want to get stuck too much into what they were wearing. It's more about just getting that picture. Excuse me. Getting that picture online to match their missing person report. So we don't see, this blank and then we don't have a lot of details. So that's something. And they're recommending that you have a picture for law enforcement. So let's go over what they recommend. They said they need the missing person's full name, date of birth, and social security number, details on where they were last seen or heard from, details on any vehicles involved, details on any person who may be with them, details on what the person was wearing, and any unique characteristics, and a current photograph. Excuse me, I'm trying to shake it off. But I'm pushing through, y'all. I'm pushing through. Because right now, it's pretty late. I don't even want to think about what time it is. And then it says, learn about additional steps to take when a loved one goes missing. To aid in the recovery of a missing person, law enforcement may request that information about a case be posted on the Ohio Missing Persons website. Law enforcement can do this by calling the Ohio Attorney General. The Ohio Missing Persons website posts cases that meet the following criteria. The person has been reported missing to law enforcement agency, and the law enforcement agency has entered the missing person into the National Crime Information Center database. And there are a missing child who is 17 years of age or younger. Excuse me. They are a missing adult between the ages of 18 to 21, or they are a missing person 22 years of age or older who is suspected by law enforcement of being endangered or the victim of criminal activity, and the child or adult is missing from Ohio, or the child or adult is missing from another state or county, but believed to be in the state of Ohio. Okay, so that all makes sense to me. Contact us, come to file a report, bring a picture, bring as much information as you can. Try to remember what they were wearing, any details, any important marks. Like you can see, I have these tattoos. That would definitely be distinguishing, right? So let's just remember those things and we can share that information. So I just want to share that like quickly. So let's keep going. So as I said, I shared the 4 that was on the exploited, the national database, that one, the 4 pictures, and then I have the 37 posters for the ones that the Attorney General in Ohio did, right? Okay, so part of that, in that big grouping, there was some more information, and I wanted to go over that because I wanted the information to be known about what the FBI does, because I'm big on like law enforcement responsibilities. And if they have responsibilities, what are they? And can there be any improvements? So I posted that in the post, but it just talks about some of the work that the FBI is doing and how they have some field offices, and they have one actually in Cleveland, Ohio, that deals with these child exploitation and trafficking cases. They have a task force. So that's something that you can read when you have the time. But I just found it like very interesting that they have resources, right? And these numbers appear to be extremely high to me. And maybe they're not. Maybe this is normal. But when I hear 37 kids in 10 days, that's 3.7 kids in 10 days, that's alarming to me. So I want to make sure that people know about resources. The greater concern, and that's why I'm bringing it to a state level first. So we have all of these states and regions, right? But if we're not working together, it's going to be hard to get a handle on the trafficking that what it appears to be is moving people from one state to another state, because again, you don't have the identity. You don't have that home state where if they get away, they can go back home. They're in another state or several states away, right? So that makes it a lot harder, and it also makes it difficult to track the movements going from one state to another. And we have a system that's not built, and we're looking at all of these flyers with not even a picture, right? We have these missing person reports from the state of Ohio. We don't have a picture. So even if we had a chance, right? How do we go from there when they're moving them from one state to another? And we can't rely on this. And then when we look at the federal database, we don't have the same number. We're not even close to the same number. They do have pictures, on the 4 that I found. Excuse me. God bless me. I did find 4, and they all had pictures, right? But they weren't the same kids, and it was the same time period. So it just needs to be some consistency across the board, because maybe the criminals are seeing all of these loopholes, and they're taking advantage of the loopholes. They're saying that one state doesn't know what another state is doing. And also, not just state to state, but also federally, they're not connecting. So if we take a child and move that child to another state, they're going to always identify what we want to call it their home state or where they resided. And if the information isn't coming across, then they can easily move kids from state to state, and it will be very hard to track. So the FBI they're going to get involved when you're crossing those state lines, right? So the FBI has a lot of information, a lot of resources. They have tip lines. You can call, you can try to get some resources. You can report trafficking if you know it. If you need help, if you're a victim and you need help, they're here to help you with those resources. So all of that is in the post. I don't want it to be overlooked, because they're working hard, but we also have to help law enforcement, right? We want to support them. If they're providing services, we might have somebody in need of those services, or we might be able to help law enforcement assist them with trying to find these missing people, because the more eyes on these missing kids, the better chance that they have an opportunity to come home. In one of my other videos, when I talked about, I'm going back to Carlee Russell again, and I didn't do a video on her, but I'm kind of talking about her within some of my videos. The reason I was getting so frustrated and upset, I was in tears, because not only is there not a lot of resources, but there's not a lot of people that want to do this work, right? These smaller cities, they don't have a large force. They don't have a lot of people that want to do this type of work. They want to put their life on the line every day. It's a very stressful place to work in. And you do come across a lot of situations where you're not going to find a surviving person. You're going to find more victims. And even if you are to survive, you may be damaged in ways. And officers get damaged. They need mental health counseling. So my point is, if we can help law enforcement, we can help our brothers in blue, right? If we can come together as a community, it would be better for everybody to work together. And we need things like this missing poster to have at least a picture. The picture is almost better than the words, because I'm not going to remember all these words. I honestly won't remember the names or the ages, but a picture would probably stick more with me. It would resonate more, right? Because I can pick up on a child's behavior that maybe something is wrong, but if I don't have a picture or idea of what they look like, that's pretty hard. That's pretty hard to figure it out, all of that. And sometimes it's just in passing. So let's just, try to do a little bit better, whatever we can. And that's why we out here creating these videos, creating content to bring that awareness. So again, the FBI is doing a great job. They have these task force in different cities. Right now in their field offices, they have in Atlanta, Boston, Cleveland, El Paso, Kansas City, Los Angeles, Memphis, Miami, Minneapolis, New York, Portland, and Sacramento. So that means that California have two offices that's handling this child exploitation and trafficking. So it must be seriously bad in California. I'm not laughing, but for them to have two, and that's a huge state too. So now the FBI is going to investigate 3 types of human trafficking, and it's also uploaded, so you can refer to it later. 1, sex trafficking, and that's when individuals are compelled by force, fraud, or coercion to engage in commercial acts. Sex trafficking of a minor occurs when the victim is under the age of 18. And when the victim is under the age of 18, you don't have to prove any force, fraud, or coercion, because they're underage. They don't get to consent when they're underage. The second type of trafficking they're looking at is called labor trafficking. And that's when individuals are compelled by force, threats, or fraud to perform labor or service. I know in the past I would hear about this in certain parts of the world. To create designs and clothing, they would have forced labor. So I didn't know that was a major issue here in the United States, but I guess it is. So again, we're all getting educated. We're all learning something new, which is amazing. The more knowledge you have, the better, stronger you can be, and the more work you can do. So let's move on to the last one, which is domestic servitude. It's when an individual within a household appears to be nannies, housekeepers, or other types of domestic workers, but they are being controlled and exploited. Now, I can really see this in certain parts of maybe California, Texas, just those states maybe closer to the border. That's really sad if that's happening. I kind of heard some stuff about the Midwest where they were having some farming issues, and that's kind of where they were having people kind of work for pennies. They didn't even have enough money to buy shoes and clothes. So I guess this is still a real thing. Yeah, very, very fortunate. But those are the 3 types of trafficking that the FBI investigates: sex, labor, and domestic servitude. Okay, so it's something that I want to talk about a little bit. I have found online some tips of what to do if you suspect that someone has gone missing, right? So let's just go over these quickly. They say do not panic. I'm not going to read everything. You can read that later. Contact friends and family. Keep your phone within reach. If you have sufficient evidence that they are in fact missing, then you want to go to law enforcement and make a missing person report. Sometimes the police require you to wait 2 to 3 days for the person to be missing. Now, this usually does not apply to minors or the elderly if you suspect some type of foul play. So each police department is going to have their own time frame that the person has to be missing. So you want to adhere to that. Trying to see if you want to highlight any of this. It's a lot of great information, but we don't have to go through everything. So here's some tips on what not to do now. Again, they say don't panic. They're saying don't wait if the person is vulnerable. You know, contact the police as soon as you can. Don't wait on searching. You know, go right ahead and start looking. If they have disappeared, don't keep it a secret. The more people that you tell, the more people you have that's looking. And that's how I feel too. And that's why I want them to kind of get this missing person poster together, because the more eyes out there, we might be able to bring some of these kids home, back to their family, their loved ones, their parents. That's the goal. So, don't hesitate if you know that they are missing, because in all honesty, it's a small window. Sometimes, law enforcement, they're doing the best they can. But once a person becomes vulnerable and is out there and they're trying to survive, it just puts them in a bad situation, a lose situation, if they have to do things to survive with no experience. So we don't want that. We want to try to get these kids back as soon as we can. We don't want it to go on for a long period of time. It's not going to be good for them. Okay? They also say, I found this to be an interesting statement, do not tidy up their bedroom or car until the police have seen it. Whether it's messy or not, do not dust before fingerprints have been taken. So that's something to remember. Don't alter a potential crime scene. Don't make any changes. Do not alter their social media accounts, cell phones, text messages. This is important indicators of your missing person's motive or lack thereof when they went missing. Don't be put off if you don't get an immediate response from law enforcement. Know your loved one's behaviors. What do they repeatedly do? Do they go to work, then come home? Or do they go to work, they stop at the grocery store? What are their patterns? You would know that if you're close. Maybe what time they do certain things, on what day. And then those are things you can do to look for. And you also know what places they go to, right? Same grocery store. For example, same building to go to work. So that's where you want to focus your efforts and put up, missing person flyers there. Okay. To avoid being the victim of a hoax, do not put your own telephone number or address on missing persons posters. Instead, use a police department contact number. People may prey upon you and can be cruel. Do not get caught up in any hoaxes, and contact law enforcement if you believe you have been the victim of one. The last thing that they're going to say as advice is do not give up. Keep appealing and searching. Remember that people want to help. Try to keep your loved one's name and photo in the public eye. Your missing person is important. I think that's really important. Keeping their name and face in the public eye. The best thing you can do is put their face out there. The more people that see it, the more people that can help you, the more people that can share it. Some people may even be willing to do a search. So that's just something that you want to think about and consider. So I'm wrapping it up, but I do just want to give an overall writing theme, right? When this initially came out back in May, I personally was not connected and don't know any missing people, right? But my heart said, we have to do something, right? We need to make some changes. We need to create some new options about finding these missing kids, because what's the alternative? If we don't make changes, on the flip side, we're going to have some bad results, right? And we don't want that. We want to do everything we can to impact the investigation so that some of these kids make it home. And if there is any type of trafficking, we want to break that up. We want to uncover that. I can remember, I might be able to find it. There was a story in Ohio, and I believe that there was 2 women that were chained and they got out. The man was going to work every day and they broke out. And I believe they were unclothed and they were running through a neighborhood trying to find somebody to help them. Let me see if I can find this story. I think this was in the state of Ohio. He had her in the house. It was 2 women. Okay, so it was 3 women because she did have his daughter. Let me see. I'm just gonna show you this really quickly. Okay, let me just see if this was in the state of Ohio or not. On May 6, 2013, the city of Cleveland witnessed a miracle when Amanda Berry called 911 from a neighbor's phone. I've been kidnapped and been missing for 10 years. I'm here. I'm free now. Berry, now 33, told the 911 operator. Berry, along with Gina DeJesus, now 29, and Michelle Knight, now 38, had been captive for more than 9 years by Ariel Castro. Castro kidnapped each of the women between 2002 and 2004. For years, the women endured unimaginable abuse as they were chained, starved, and tortured by Castro. The 3 women never gave up hope, and since their escape, they have worked to help and heal others. Isn't that amazing? They have helped and worked to heal others after what they endured. They showed the full story on 2020. So what I'll do, because this brought back to my remembrance. When I heard about it, it was so shocking because of the way she came out of the house and she was running and she didn't have any clothes on and she was trying to get help and she was determined I am going to be a survivor, right? So I just thought that was like an amazing story. So I'm going to link this, you know, for anybody that's interested to watch it, and maybe you will get some inspiration from it. But this is another case in Ohio, right? But I wanna get to the end. I have a video by, I believe he's the Attorney General. This video is dated June 1st, 2023. And okay, let's see. I'm trying to it may be easier for me to read it. But I prefer to watch it. I don't know why I'm not seeing a video about a bear, which I don't know what that's about. I guess maybe they're just going from one video to the next. Not sure. Let me see if I can reload the page to get back to the original video. This is it right now. But I want to just play this video to hear his take on what's happening in his state, because I'm sure it's his responsibility to pursue these crimes for possible kidnapping. So let's see. I don't even know what to say. I don't want to talk about this case. Okay, let's see if I can go back, because it's literally showing me other cases that I didn't. I don't know. Oh, I think this is it now. Okay. If I can, I don't know. Now it popped out of there. Okay. Okay, I'm trying to see if I can get some sound going on here.
What they're doing, it is really a subversion of the rule of law. Is it any coincidence that the DOJ rushes?
Okay, that's not it. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time pulling this video. That was literally supposed to be it, but it's like it's doing everything but it, even though it's showing the article, and I don't want to read all of that. So I want to see if I can find. think this might be a good one to watch because it's probably local. It's called Fox 8 News. Okay, so
A roof over your head. Stressful when Mother Nature threatens that. You don't want to trust your home with
trying to let the commercial pass. It's an advertisement.
Good morning and thank you and welcome everyone. I appreciate everyone tuning in. I think we're going to have, a very robust conversation, but I think I want to make sure that we bring some clarity to some of the things that have been reported over the last week and a half, 2 weeks relative to missing persons and more specifically missing juveniles in the city of Cleveland. I just want to bring clarity and make sure that we clear up some of the misinformation I believe is out there. In the city of Cleveland, we have approximately 5 detectives, and we have 5 detectives in each of the 5 neighborhood police districts that are assigned specifically to missing persons, not just missing juveniles, but just missing persons in general. Also, we have a detective that's assigned downtown, which is Detective Callahan, who's an expert, I believe, in missing persons and finding missing persons. He's going to talk in a minute here. We do have missing individuals in the city of Cleveland, no question about it. Now, we take every single one of them seriously. Our detectives take it seriously. Our officers in each of the 5 neighborhood districts take it seriously, and officers in the specialized units. And that's why in the city of Cleveland, we have a dedicated detective in each of the districts. That's how serious we take this particular issue. Also, we have to have context. It's important that we bring context to this particular issue that we have today. If you look at the stats, and you look at the stats, they are startling. They're very startling. We have a number of missing juveniles reported year to date as 1,072. But also, and again, the number is 1,072. But the number returned is also 1,020. So we have obviously outstanding missing juveniles. The vast majority of those juveniles are missing juveniles, are actually runaways, and sometimes some of those are habitual runaways. And I don't say that to minimize missing juveniles. I don't say that. I think, again, it's just to add context. Each of those particular missing persons, whether juvenile or adult, is investigated by our missing person liaison in each of the districts, and then also by our detective, downtown Detective Callahan. So we take them seriously. They're investigated and they're followed up on. If we, the Division of Police, receive information that potentially the circumstances are suspicious in nature, we have our units within each of the districts and downtown who are called out to investigate it. If it's a missing juvenile under suspicious circumstances, not only are the detectives assigned to it, if we need additional help, we bring our detectives from downtown. And if it looks like it's a serious and legitimate kidnapping or abduction, we bring in our federal partners, the FBI and others, to assist us to find that particular missing person. So we have resources that are available that we bring to bear in these particular cases.
Okay. I stopped the video because you have a limited amount of time to capture the audience with information. And repeating the same statement over and over, it doesn't have any value for me. I would want to know specifically, what are you doing? How long has this been a problem? What are the numbers today? I can't trust your numbers. If I'm seeing 37 kids in 10 days, that makes me feel concerned. Like, I would do the math, right? Let me just do the math. If I pull my calculator out, I say 37 kids in 10 days, right? Divide that by 37 divided by 10. It's 3.7, right? Just move the decimal. And you have 365 days in a year, right? So you should be estimating, if this trend continues, 1,350 missing kids approximately in a year. If you tell me now the date of this press conference, it was dated June 14, 2023. If you're telling me that you have over 1,000, I think he said 1,062 missing persons, and that was on June 14th, that's way off, right? Something's wrong with those numbers. But again, we're not trying to expose law enforcement in a negative light. We're trying to figure out a way that we can partner with law enforcement, sharing information, resources to help them, to help the kids come home. The ones that are, if you want to put them in that category of runaways, how about the ones that are taken as kidnapped, abducted? We have yet to see any numbers on that. So I don't want to overlook the entire thing, which is in Ohio, but also in other areas, there's a large number of kids going missing. We need, as a community, to figure out a game plan, a way to reduce that number. I always want to look at myself and what I can do. I know how I run the household, how I deal with kids, how I deal with my kid, and just being there is a big part. Spending time doing things with your kids, not letting them to be out, not letting them be alone, not having them walk from school, having them go out and walk to the store. It's just a way that you can eliminate that possibility, right? So I hope that it's been something said that can help you, information you can share, or if you just learn something new, something in addition to what you already know. I'm definitely not an expert. Kidnapping and abductions haven't been my biggest interest. But after everything happened, more so with just finding encouragement from Gretchen Harrington's killer being arrested, and kind of seeing how Carlee Russell could have come out multiple times and just stating the truth that there was not an abduction. If she had returned home in those 2 days, came forward with a statement basically saying, I apologize. Some things that happened I wasn't happy about. I made a bad decision. I'm totally safe. I'm unharmed. I just needed some time to myself. I apologize that this affects so many people, because that was not my intention. If she had come out with some kind of statement, I don't even think it would have gone as far as these 2 criminal charges. Again, I'm a parent. If that was my child, I would push them in front of those cameras to say, 1, thank you. Thank you for your concern. Thank you for all your efforts. I am safe. I'm okay. But I want to say thank you. And then I want to apologize. because I didn't mean for all of this to happen. So because that didn't happen, it created a domino effect of law enforcement. You know, they want to know what happened. They want to know where she's been. They want to know if anybody else was involved. And they want compensation for those resources that were used inappropriately, wasted. So, you know, we want to focus our energy and our efforts on real crime victims. People that do need police support, services, resources. We don't want to be wasting effort and energy and money on anything that's not real, okay? So, again, thank you for watching this video. I hope you gained some knowledge, some information. I hope you can share it to help somebody else. And let's see where this is taking us in the next couple of weeks to months. You know, if anything is going to improve in Ohio. They've sounded the alarm. They've rang the bell. They have people that are interested, and now is the time to take advantage of that interest, that focus on Ohio. Maybe they can get some financial dollars, federal funds to help them. You know, we want that. We want them to get some services to help them with these missing police reports, right? We need community partners. We need people that care. We need volunteers to do the work, because that's the only way it's going to get done. And that's from your hands and your feet to make it happen. So I hope you have a great day, a great week, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. I'm out. I'm going to bed. Bye.